Hey folks, Brian here. Exciting news. My band, Ninja Sex Party, has a new album coming out on March 8th, and the album is called, and you might already know this, but if not, hold on to your pants. It's called These Nuts. That's right, These Nuts. You can go to ninjasexparty.com and get a copy over there. We're doing the thing we always do where you can get a signed copy for pre-order, and then once the album comes out on March 8th, along with a new music video, with a special guest star, very exciting stuff. Once the album comes out, you can get unsigned copies. So, but pre-order a copy. We'd really appreciate it. This album has been 4 years in the making. This is the one we wrote over COVID and beyond. It's been a really, honestly, one of our biggest challenges ever as a band to make and produce this album. So I just really appreciate your support. And ninjasexparty.com is the place to get that album. Also, as always, for this show, you can go to patreon.com/lateandnight to sign up there at any tier to get video episodes or at the 2 or 3 peach tier for mini episodes and more. All right, thank you so much for your support and enjoy this great episode with longtime NSP and Starbomb collaborator Patrick Stannard from Knights of the Light Table.
Are you wearing the Twerp IBS shirt? Wow. I'm really sad that I don't own one of
brand
those.
Loyalty.
Considering how accurate it is to my life now.
Patrick, when was the last time you saw Twerp perform live?
Last time they were in Austin, I'd say. Or no, I think they were in San Antonio.
Did you see their AI run tour? I guess is what I'm asking.
No, I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, so they have a new entity that controls all aspects of the Twerp show named Grob, all hail Grob, who masterminds everything about the Twerp live performance and will continue to in the upcoming tour, which will feature some smooth jazz from a certain affiliated party. We're coming through Austin.
Yes, I know that.
In the near future, and hopefully we'll see you there. I don't think I'm spilling the beans here. This is another Grob run show, and in fact you can now look. I don't know why I'm shilling for this band, well actually I do, because I love them.
Because they're bad guys,
because they're bad people. That's right, bad people who will punish me physically and financially if I don't promote this tour.
Grob really runs with an iron fist, doesn't he?
Yes,
he
you can
does.
join the official Grob fan club.
That's mandatory, right?
Yeah,
you
of
have
course.
to join the Grob fan club.
Yes, that's right, mandatory fandom. Actually, that's a really good album title. I'm going to write that down. But yes, you can get a little card for official member of the Grob fan club, and it's kind of a big deal.
It comes with a locator microchip that's inserted in the back of your neck.
Well, yeah, Grob has to know where you are. How else can Grob provide excellent service if Grob doesn't know your precise location? I mean, it's ridiculous that people would Grob
how
to know
else
where
is
they
Grob
are.
going to drone strike your home? I mean, that's just a basic need he has.
Enough, right? Grob is very kind. In addition to being all-knowing, Grob is all...
He's benevolent.
All feeling. That's right. He's a benevolent entity. And if you're not listening to Twerp enough, you get 3 warnings before the drone strike happens. And that's more... That's more than most. That's more than most would give. We have to admit that.
Albeit that the first 2 are silent, but you'll hear the third one.
You'll kind of get a sense that the vibe is off with Grob. The recommendations don't seem quite as targeted to
Ground's
specific
starting to shake
interests.
a little bit.
That's right. Yeah. But what I was going to say is when I was talking about this with Twerp, when I saw them recently in Toronto, I recalled that many years ago on social media, I announced the official NSP fan club as sort of a joke, which I still feel like we should do something. It was called the Ninja Brian Turnt Bay Squad. And
Ninja Brian Turnt Bay Squad.
Yes, the Ninja Brian Turnt Bay Squad. And there were all sorts of benefits that you get by joining, which there was no, instructions for doing so. So it's more of just an emotional thing. But I've always loved the Ninja Brian Turnt Bay Squad. And as that slang gets increasingly out of date,
that is a hell of an acronym to make. NBTBS.
Yeah. But now, Leighton, you didn't have much of a reaction to that at all. What do you feel about the Ninja Brian Turnt Bay Squad? Would you consider yourself a part of it?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Okay.
Did you hear my ALEXA popping in at that moment? The little known fact, when you hear that sound, it often means that Grob is listening. So you might think that it's your Amazon ALEXA.
Be mindful, you can only displease Grob 3 times.
Yeah, that's right.
Candyman rules.
And that's 2.5.
Bloody Mary rules. Anyway, Grob's listening, and Grob disapproves of Ninja Brian's Turnt Bay Squad, as he should.
I'll discuss with Grob when we're on tour together.
All right, I have a direct line to Grob, so don't.
I love the
power trip
phrase
me.
"I will discuss with Grob."
Yeah. This is an exciting show. I was saying before to our guest, who we'll talk to in a minute. Ever since the start of the show, I was like, oh man, I should reach out to Patrick to have him on. And because that is a task, I didn't do it. So with a new project, I was like, oh, now's the time. So I'm very excited to have a longtime collaborator of mine and Danny's on the show. We've been working together for many years now in various capacities. And we'll talk about it as soon as I introduce the show, because everybody, this is Late Night with Brian Wecht. My name is Brian Wecht. Over here, as always, we have Leighton Gray. Say hi, Leighton Gray.
Hi, I'm Leighton Gray. I've started my 4th rewatch of True Detective in 2 weeks, and I'm vibing on it. And mystery guest, whose name has totally not been said multiple times already.
Yes.
Who are you?
I am Patrick. I am here. I am he. I am Pat. And Brian is correct. I've been working with NSP, TWRP for a long time. Matter of fact, y'all were one of the reasons I made Knights of the Light Table in the first place, which is kind of a segue into that's what my main thing is. I am the runner, the owner, the king of Knights of the Light Table. And when I'm not doing that, I'm over at Powerhouse Animation, directing television shows and animating on things and doing all sorts of things like that.
And for those people listening who don't know, can you say what Knights of the Light Table is, in case it's not obvious?
It's an animation studio. We mainly do music videos, but we'll do little commercial projects here and there. We have kind of an eclectic style. We can do big range of things. Like I like to point out Starbomb Blowing the Payload is so wildly different from Night Runner Magnum Bullets, which is so different from Starlight Brigade, but they're all really well animated.
Just sorry, real quick to interrupt. We do not discuss Dan Avidan's solo projects on this particular show. Oh. So there's a strict moratorium. No, I'm kidding, of course.
I was like, oh, we're about to get some deep lore all of a sudden.
Yeah. No. It's, of course, we can talk about that. I just won't comment.
Well, I do know that when we worked on Heartboner,
yes,
which I remember I pitched you guys, or at least I pitched Dan a title for it, which was Cardiac Erect, but they didn't go for it.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
That's really good, though.
That's great, yes.
But that's when we learned that Ninja Brian, even in animated form, never blinks.
Never blinks. Yep,
it saves you some time.
Yeah,
it's 3 frames,
right.
technically.
It's a famous maxim of animation is that blinking is where most of the time goes in animating.
Oh, yeah.
And, the fact that my character doesn't blink is really more of a public service to the animators we work with than a character choice.
It is still one of my favorite shots, though, is just that the Ninja Brian horse is slowly turning to the camera.
Oh, I love that. So was that, I'm trying to remember, was that the first thing we did together? I think it was, right? Was it?
Well, so there is that one, and there's the no comment Night Runner project.
Oh, right.
So technically, we started Night Runner first, but we finished Heartboner before we finished Night Runner.
Got it. Because Night Runner wasn't a thing, all joking aside, that was just not a thing I was really involved with at all. That was a Danny thing. So that's something you guys were working on at the same time as Heartboner was happening. Cool.
But all those projects, there's still so many people from those first two that I get to work with that I'm so happy. Like Renee Violet is so amazing, does backgrounds for so many of our projects. And I still, Michael and India are huge. And those were very formative projects for us as a studio and for me as an artist.
Well, and for us as a band too. Like that's right around the time, in no small part due to the work you guys did, that I felt like our videos really leveled up, went from looking one way to looking a lot better, and having that, I remember when we saw the first animatics or whatever it was for the Heartboner animation, I was like, what the fuck is going on? This is like so much better than anything we've done before.
Oh God. I mean, like the urge, like from an animator standpoint, like the opportunity, even though it was like from a comedic standpoint to do like a faithful adaptation of like Disney musicals. You know, like it's the prince, it's the princess. Like that ballroom scene is basically just from Beauty and the Beast.
Of course. But that's what makes it great. I mean, look, my band would be nothing without, some would call it stealing. I call it homage. And that's part of what it is. Like
sincere satire.
Yes, indeed. And you know, Beauty and the Beast, a movie that meant a lot to me as a kid growing up. I love that movie. I love the songs. Like it's fun to have a version of that, or shall we charitably say, a reference to that in my own work, for sure. I loved it.
I don't know if I have it here. I might have it at my office at Powerhouse, but I definitely did a print of that fresco that Renee painted.
The Creation of Man one?
Yes.
Dude, okay. I thought this would be one of the greatest pieces of NSP merch ever. There's a Creation of Man reference where it's us and Twerp, right, in this thing, and Dr. Sung has the chunkiest little leg in this thing. He's got this little meaty leg.
Even?
Oh, it's so great. Let me find the specific timestamp, because I have been obsessed with Dr. Sung's meaty little leg in this particular thing. Hold on, let me find this.
While you find that, Patrick, how did you first meet this squad? How did you get involved with Brian and the rest of the Rascals?
Surprisingly enough, through Game Grumps. So when, I think it was 2013, I was really kind of itching to get some sort of like just creative outlet. Sometimes you have that happen, right? Like Powerhouse has come a long way as a studio. And when I first joined Powerhouse, we were still working on things like, you know, Jasper the Mule, and we were working on like baseball smarts, and we were doing like a lot of little commercials. Like those are fun, but like a lot of the rule of that is like, this is on a budget, get this out fast. Like you need to be efficient, make it good, but make it done on time. And so I was like itching for like, I just wanted to do my thing. And my thing wasn't always necessarily like profitable. It was always weird. And so Game Grumps was really kind of like growing at that point, and Game Grumps animators were really hot. And I remember listening to some audio, and it was Aaron and Danny were kind of riffing off this idea of Baloney Man as like this like horror kind of Halloween like series of movies. And so they're just like, Baloney Man coming this Friday. And then Dan would riff off that, and they'd kind of go back and forth. And so I was like, I'm going to grab little snippets. I'm going to make little vignettes, and animated it, did that one. And then that led to another one, which was from their playthrough of Think of Inside. And I did like as if it was Akira.
And this is just you solo doing this.
It's just me solo. But from those, Dan found out about like me as an animator. And he reached out and he said, hey, I have this, like, this is the when we first started, which is Night Runner. He said, like, I have this project. It's with like just a couple of guys. You're a really good animator. I'd love to work with you on this. And I saw it as an opportunity to like just have a lot of creative freedom and a lot of fun. And so like immediately dived into that. And then while we were working on that, he was like, hey, why are you doing this? Now we got this other really cool thing that's happening, and this needs animation. And I was like, cool, I'll get a team together. And, you know, we already had like Michael and India who were helping me on Night Runner. And so like we then went out and got like Renee, and we made the second team. And those two projects were happening at about the same time.
That's crazy. And this was like 2016, probably. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah. And now, dude, I mean, what? Obviously, I'm taking no credit for this when I say this, but what an amazing trajectory from like, hey, doing fan animations for Game Grumps to co-directing the like Masters of the Universe shows that have been on right now. I mean, that's like nuts.
Honestly, like those music videos had a big hand in that. You know, like it's no small feat. And a lot of times in this industry, when you want to direct something, the first question people ask you is like, well, what have you directed? You know, these shows cost millions and millions of dollars.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
If we're going to hand you millions and millions of dollars, we need some insurance that we're going to get a return on investment, that you're going to do good quality. And so those are a big way and help me to move up to directing status.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. And then, so I'm trying to think the last thing we did together was Mystic Crystal.
Yes.
And I'm trying to remember. We have, I think, how many videos do we have? Like NSP is like 70 music videos, so I can't keep them all straight. Dude, there was something else, right, that we all did, and I'm just forgetting what it is.
In terms of NSP, I think there was Heart Boner. There's Mystic Crystal.
Was there another NSP?
One is
it was just Starbomb.
Not NSP. That was it was Starbomb, and then there was Night Runner, and I'm trying to think if there's any other music videos.
By the way, 222 is the timestamp that I'm referring to in the Heart Boner video.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Let me look through here because I feel like there was one other thing, but maybe not.
Yeah, Mystic Crystal, Night Runner, Starlight Brigade, Starbomb blowing the payload, Heart Boner. So 5.
Yeah, okay. That was it.
Yeah.
Cool. I love that blowing the payload video too.
That was a really fun one to work on.
So fun. That's a very interesting Starbomb song to me because in between when we wrote that and when the thing came out, Overwatch had peaked and dropped. And so we definitely did not catch Overwatch at the peak of its popularity. I love that song still, but I do remember when it came out, it was like, well, okay, maybe we kind of missed the peak on that, but that's bound to happen. People were still playing it, but also that's just bound to happen when there's, as there always is for our albums at this point, a year between writing, recording, and release. But I love that. I love that video. And also, for Starbomb, I don't think we talked about this ever. For Starbomb, that particular one was it was kind of an important song musically for us because so we recorded that at Sonic Ranch with Torp, and that was one of the few songs on that third album that was very sample based. And, there's like that banjo thing that happens a bunch. I don't think Torp is playing on that at all. It's all samples.
Oh, really?
Maybe some keyboard stuff I'm doing. Yeah. And after hearing that song, I was like, oh, this is what I want the next Starbomb album. If we ever do a fourth album, I want to do samples because it was so fun and it's not something I've worked with much before myself. Let's do it. And now the fourth Starbomb album is coming out at some point later this year, and it is heavily sample driven.
And it's very, very good.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you.
And I say that as somebody who hates Starbomb.
Yes, which is most people.
That's not true. I hadn't listened to like several intermediate albums, but I was going to say that there is one particular song off of the new album for a game that I play a lot that won't leave my fucking head.
Oh, interesting.
Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Do I have a vocal part in this one?
You do.
Towards the end? Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
That might be my favorite song Starbomb's ever done.
Oh, wow. That's great to hear.
I mean, I still sing Regretroid in my head all the time, but
Dude,
I'm a huge fucking Metroid fan. So
oh shit, yeah.
Wow, that rules.
I love Regretroid. It's just a fun song lyrically. This album is now more than 10 years old. The first Starbomb album came out in 2013.
Oh my God, it's 10 years old.
The Player Select is 10 years old this year. The first album is now going to be, I guess it was like fall or winter.
Wow.
I mean, December 2013. So we just passed the 10-year anniversary. But musically, I listened back to that first Starbomb album, and I've loved hip hop for years and, always was curious about if I could write it. And that was a fun opportunity to just do a bunch of hip hop tracks. So that one was 100, that production wise, that's 100% me instrumentally, just sitting in mostly my in-laws' house in Minnesota over various breaks from teaching physics to come up with some, I remember writing the Castlevania backing track on my in-laws' bed in their loft bedroom and just sitting up there with a 4-octave MIDI controller attached to a laptop and writing Castlevania and being like,
sounds like a vibe.
Yeah. But that's how a lot of, for a while, NSP and Starbomb instrumentals were written, just MIDI controller.
That's honestly how you have to pass time in the Midwest, honestly.
So anyway, just to finish that thought, that Overwatch song, I love that video. And musically, it turned out to be kind of the direction the band moved for the next album. But yeah, so you mentioned the Midwest. I realized, Patrick, I know very little about you as a human being. So can you say, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Michigan, Detroit, Kalamazoo are kind of like the main two spots that I did most of my growing up.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it.
Been to Ann Arbor a couple times, been to Lansing, been to the UP, all that. But like mostly like my growing up was in those two areas.
So I lived in Ann Arbor for a little while. So I wouldn't say I know Michigan well, but I did live there legally. I lived there and enjoyed it. Would you call Michigan the Midwest? I've always been curious about this. Okay.
Michigan's like, I think, the heart of the Midwest, honestly. Like it's farmland and it's also Rust Belt towns. Like that's where the auto industry is at. Like it's so much of it is quintessential Midwest, which is like flat, cold, no good food. Sorry. And and then like a lot of like old cities that used to be factory towns.
Yes. When you moved away from Detroit, Detroit was not having its best years, I'm assuming.
No, when I left Detroit was in 2011. Like that was the time when a lot of the old buildings that were starting to get purchased and torn down and then starting to get replaced. But I haven't been back there since. And I hear that it's like gentrified as hell. So it's like, it looks way different. I remember like Detroit, people would get freaked out. You know, they'd visit me and they'd be like, oh, someone's setting off fireworks. And I'm like, no. Those aren't fireworks. When I was making the least amount of money in my entire life, I lived across from a meth lab. Mm-hmm. And I was a naive kid. So I was like, wow, look at all these random people showing up, just kind of vegging out on the porch. And then one day it caught fire because the meth lab exploded.
Oh my God. Wow. And then it gentrified and now it's a meth laboratory.
Yeah. But like, I just remember like huge fire. They put the fire out and then the people just went right back in. And I was like, God. I need to go.
Yeah.
I need to find somewhere else to live.
That's the year. So I just lived in Michigan for a year and change. And that's the year I moved out too. I was there like 2010, 2011. And I've been back to Ann Arbor and Detroit for gigs, you know, since then, but not enough to really get a sense of what it's like these days.
Patrick, where did the love of art and animation start for you? Like, what was your journey with developing that interest?
I would say probably like definitely young. I was like the only kid who drew when I was like a kid. I didn't have like a lot of friends. I just kind of had like one that I saw every now and then. It was mostly just kind of me and my worlds. And I just kind of like everything else could go do its thing. And I was going to go do my thing. So very socially awkward, very weird, spazzy kid. And then,
not like a Brian Weck type popular, you know, normal. Yeah.
I mean, like it was to the point where like even teachers were like, "What the hell, Patrick? Like you gotta fix some of this stuff."
Dude, I had except for the drawing, this is very relatable.
Oh yeah.
Yes, this is exactly who I was. Yeah.
For me, relatable down to the drawing also. So I think we're all kindred spirits here.
But like that's where like it started, and then eventually I actually went to CCS, which is across the way from Wayne State in Detroit, and it's like a private art college.
What does CCS stand for?
College for Creative Studies.
Okay.
And I know it's more expensive now. When I went there, it was about $30,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So I came out with about like $120,000 in student debt.
Fuck.
I hate that, like hearing that price, my brain goes, oh, that's cheap compared to, because, you know, I also went to art school. I applied.
They're all like up like 15 more thousand now a year.
More than that, even at that time, like when I was applying in like 2015 or whatever, where it's like even getting large scholarships from all of those places, it was like, who can afford this? Hello?
Yeah, like I mean, a lot of me and my friends, like they're all like paying off their debt in their 30s, basically. Yeah. Like, and that's if you're gainfully employed.
Right.
In the arts field, which famously pays amazing.
Yeah. I think about that a lot. Is like the information to get good at art, to like hone your craft, is so readily available now. I love all the friends and the teachers I made at CCS, but if I'm to be brutally honest, you know, their whole thing was like, oh, well, like we just give you the skills. We don't guarantee employment.
Yeah. By the way, would you call what's incoming? Is this a hot take?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on. Excuse me.
Is there a sound effect?
Cancel me, daddy. Okay, continue.
All right. So I would say that like if you're charging someone as much as like a really like nice house, you should guarantee a job. Maybe when it was like $15,000 total. It's like, okay, you're just giving skills and you're like paying them for their hours, but like, and for the facilities, but like, I can't imagine anything else where they don't guarantee you something for spending like $120,000 to $200,000.
Or maybe even a plausible path to earning a living in that field, right? Like, even if it wasn't a guarantee, just something where it's like the odds of success, and by success, I mean like any kind of gainful employment in the arts, whatever artistic field, are so stacked against you that it is at this point, for exactly the reason you say, it feels predatory to charge people that much for something you can largely get the basic information of for free online, and B, the secret to doing well at is just doing it a lot, and getting better and better and better.
Yeah, like learning the skills of the trade, right? Like, so it's if you want to learn how to cook, or if you want to learn how to do woodworking, like you talk to someone who's done a lot of woodworking, like, oh, you don't want to do a dovetail joint like this. You want to do it like this so that you can make everything mesh. And it's same thing with art. I think the main thing that like schooling does give you that's hard to do on your own is one is like kind of a forced motivator. It'll force you to do things that maybe you wouldn't do normally yourself. Totally. So it's like, you're going to have to learn life drawing. It's like, but I don't want to do life drawing. It's like, you got to do it. And you find skills that way that you wouldn't normally look for. And I think the other one is in community. Fellow students, like these are going to be your peers, people who you're going to connect with later on. But now with like Discord and with, X, Twitter, whatever the hell it's called now.
It's called X.
Okay. Tumblr, like with all these things, you can get a semblance of that, but you're not meeting a lot of the people in person as much.
Totally true.
And you pretty much only have, I think, because, I went to Savannah College of Art and Design for like 2 years. Yeah, exactly.
Wow, wait, hold on. It has that much of a rep outside of it?
Oh, yeah, baby.
There are a lot of SCAD people in the industry, and I don't think I've heard a good story from any of them.
Wow.
No.
Okay, good to know.
So I went there for 2 years. I was in the illustration and sequential arts program because I wanted to make comics, which feels unfathomable to me now. But I really felt, aside from being the most depressed I've ever been in my life for a variety of reasons, I was just like, I grew up drawing stuff on DeviantArt and the internet. This is not giving me really anything that I didn't know other than that sort of forced motivation of, the cute jokey thing that staff always does of sleep comes after death. That's what SCAD stands for. Just that intense level of having to do stuff to the point that like now at 26, I look at my art from that period and like the year after I dropped out. And I'm like, why isn't my stuff as good? Like, I'm worse now. But then it's like, because you were spending every waking moment until like 4 a.m. every single day drawing constantly. It's like, for a semester, fill up this 100-page sketchbook along with all the other assignments that you have to do. And you need to do a real life 3-point perspective drawing, but you're not allowed to take a photo of it. You have to go on location to the place that we started doing this in Savannah, and the 3 points needs to be perfect. And you need to have 4 different figures in them, and one needs to be sitting like.
And that's one of your credits. That's not all the other 12.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm glad that I became successful with game development and was able to get out of that zone
podcasting
of stuff. Yes. I also wish that they would stop apparently throwing my name around as a SCAD alumnus.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which I don't like hearing that, especially because they were so actively hostile towards me when I was like, I'm working on a video game. And they would be like, oh, yeah, sure you are. Anyway.
I am very interested because this is something you absolutely see in a lot of different industries. So this is not comprehensive, but in the sciences, famously at places like MIT or Caltech or whatever, it's this thing where it's like, you're going to want to fucking die. You're going to be in hell for however many years until you get through this. But at MIT, the acronym that everybody says is IHTFP, which stands for I hate this fucking place. or some older alums will say, if MIT is your jam, it stands for I have truly found paradise. It's like that old MIT kind of meme from God knows when, 40 years ago.
It's a hell of a scale.
Yeah. But it's something you see a lot in the sciences, which is like, you're going to not sleep. You're going to be up, constantly churning out problem sets, trying to do labs, whatever it is. And it's gotta be bad, right? It's like objectively bad.
You're in so much competition, like with your fellow students as well. Like, and that's one of the issues that like we run into professionally as well, where like, it's like, I'm going to charge this much for for these many hours because that's what I think we're worth. And that's like a living wage. And then there's like,
right.
All right, here comes some other person like, well, I'm willing to work for half of that and I'm going to bust my butt. And it's like, you're hurting yourself and us.
Yes.
By doing that. But also like, if you're just trying to eat and you don't have any money, it's like, I can't fault someone for trying to, put food on their table.
That's right. And then you somewhat rely on the people holding the purse strings to pay people a reasonable wage, which is something they are not known to do typically.
No.
Right? Yes.
Why pay this much when I can pay much less?
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty simple math in that scenario, and that's difficult. It's something that like I run into a lot, especially with nights, right. Because like as cost of living goes up. Right. Mm-hmm. Like it used to be when we first started nights, like back in like 2016, it was like $25 an hour for like a subcontractor, young artist was like something. Now I learned from some lessons that like I needed to start charging more. And hindsight's 2020. Like now I make sure that I'm charging for like licenses for like programs like Photoshop and Toon Boom and all that kind of stuff. And I make sure I cover operating costs and studio fees and things like that. But now like the base rate is like 35, like base.
Wow.
That's where like I start because that's wild, what you need to survive. Like rent's so flipping high everywhere that like, if I'm not paying someone like that, then they can't work full time.
And especially this feels really acute for me because I have different monetizable skills. And I find when I do like a writing gig for me is really easy because I can sit at my computer and I can type out words, right? But then I do an art gig where I will spend 16 hours doing an illustration or something. And it's such like you are literally pulling something from nothing and have to portray it accurately. And I feel so much more stressed out when I'm doing visual art stuff, or at least like if it's concepting and it can be rough, that's fine. But when it's like final polished art, it's exhausting. And so to be paid really little for art stuff, especially animation, like, I don't know, it takes like a visible toll on a lot of artists, I think. Like it's a very palpable. Yeah, there's a certain type of person who gels really well with the kind of pressure that you're under in that sort of position.
There's this weird thing, like to kind of like speak to like artists not being paid a lot. And like there's this weird thought that like doing art as a profession is fulfilling in a way that others aren't. Because when you use the word art versus craft, people don't think of you doing a job. They think of you expressing yourself and being creative. And a lot of times, people who hold the purse strings, a lot of times those are people who didn't pursue a creative profession. And so I think there's this weird permeating thought that like, oh, well, the artist is being fulfilled in a way that I'm not. So my compensation is more money, but their compensation is like half fulfillment and then they can get less money. You're just drawing. You're just doing this creative thing. Like, well, you would do this for free. Like, why can't you do this for me? Like, you're having fun, right?
For exposure.
Well, the other thing is you're often working for people who have no idea how to do or communicate what they want in the thing you're doing. So I'm curious for both of you, actually, can you think of a particularly weird or dumb note that someone has given you for a visual art thing that just made no sense and was stupid?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to mention anonymously?
Yes. There's one that like, this wasn't given to me directly, but it was given to my friend Mel, who was
If it was me that gave the note, by the way, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. Yeah.
Wasn't anything NSP related. It was
legally
for a religious organization.
Okay.
And it was these little cartoon birds. And one of the birds was going to represent Jesus. And they were just like, you need to make him look more religious. Just like it's a bird. Like I don't. So the answer to that, though, is to make him look up and to the right.
Oh, okay.
That worked. That's what made him. Oh my God, there he is.
Great. It's like a reverse JFK.
That bird's too secular.
Yeah, that's right. That bird doesn't look like it believes in God. Change it. Layden, yes.
I won't go into specific dumb notes because that just kind of comes like you just have to accept if this is what you want to do, that is going to be your entire bread and butter of doing notes that you disagree with and don't want to do. But the general Murphy's Law throughout my entire artistic career is knowing that if you come at a client with thumbnails, they're going to pick the one you hate. There is never any variation. They're going to pick the one that you hate. It doesn't matter how good the other ones are. So never draw a thumbnail that you don't feel okay taking to the final, because that is the one that they are going to pick every goddamn time.
Can I defend clients a little bit though?
Go for it.
Like, I think sometimes though artists do, because you do get weird notes and you don't understand it. And like the initial knee-jerk reaction is like, this is dumb. They don't understand what the hell is going on. But like, in honesty, that is somewhat your job. You're talking to someone who's like, hey, you're the expert. Like, I need your help. And like, there's moments when the ask is a little bit too forward, perhaps, or like not respecting of the fact that like you know what the hell you're talking about. But in general, like our job is to take like someone who doesn't speak our language as well and try to find the note behind the note. And that's a good element of it, which is like, don't ever give a client something that you don't want to do. Like if you don't want to work on this particular design, don't give it to them, because there's that chance they might pick it. And if you gave it to them, like, well, you gave me all three, why can't I pick this one if you didn't want me to pick it?
Yeah, in music, this is the rough analog is don't send someone a demo if you're not willing to use particular elements from it, right? Or that they might just take and then post and be like, here's the finished song. You know,
oh shit, I hadn't thought of that.
Like, it's very unlikely to happen. I did a demo for something recently, and I made it purposefully not great, just so that nobody could interpret it as a finished product. You know, because that's the nightmare, is someone taking a work in progress and posting it and being like, look, it's done, and here's the person that did it. Look at this incompetent oaf, you know, who doesn't even know how to produce a song or whatever. Yeah,
I think that's something that's unique to music. I haven't really heard of that happening in visual arts that much.
Oh, I have an equivalent, and this has happened maybe once or twice. I love when people want to get tattoos of art. I'm always happy if somebody asks if they can do it, and I will 9 times out of 10 say yes. I have had people get tattoos of sketches that they didn't ask me about, and were not finished art.
You're talking about, yeah.
And it's like, God bless you. That is sweet. That's awesome that it's on your body. That was just a sketch. It was not a finished thing. And now you have it on your body forever. Yeah. So I think that's a similar equivalent.
You could also take that as speaking to the prowess of your sketches.
You're giving much more generous takes on these things, Patrick, and I appreciate it. I think there's just an existential horror to that.
So, Patrick, when you were a kid, what were your big? This is such a cliched question, but I'm always interested in it. What were your big what were your things? What were your influences artistically? You know, visually, whatever.
A lot of like 80s sci-fi.
Yeah, such as, let's be specific here.
I saw RoboCop way too young.
Sure.
Hell yeah.
I loved like Aliens. A lot of that stuff. I actually initially wanted to get into game design. Initially concept art, because I loved Star Wars. I was a huge Star Wars fan as a kid. And so, yeah, like it was the generic, like kind of boyish things, right? It was Star Wars. It was like a lot. I played with Legos, played like Halo very early on. And I got really into Halo, and I never played it, but I watched a friend play the game Command and Conquer. And I got weirdly, I have weird obsessions. It just happens. Like I get super obsessed with something for like a while. And I got obsessed with like making my own armies, and that got me into like world building. And I would go to friends like, what kind of army would you have? Like, I don't know, Pat. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And like, this one's got artillery, and then this one's got hover tanks, and they're just like, and all like these are like thumbnails. But yeah, like all like very much like kind of 80s sci-fi horror, all the classics. Everything from Screamers to Predator, Terminator, like all that stuff.
Screamers. People do not talk about Screamers a lot, but Screamers is fucking cool.
Yeah, remember to smoke your reds.
Yeah. And there's 4, 5 of them.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I just knew the first one.
Oh no, I think there's at least 4 screamers. Well, or am I wrong? I might be wrong, actually.
I don't know. Yeah, that's got Peter Weller in it as well.
That's correct. Yes, yeah. Peter Weller's in
Good for
Screamers.
him.
I love Peter Weller. Peter Weller is one of my all-time favorite actors. I'm a huge Buckaroo Banzai fan, always have been.
Have you seen the RoboCop Oreo thing?
No.
Oh my God, it's an interview. It's like behind the scenes footage, and there's some like he was a technician or a stagehand or gaffer or something, but he was like apparently shooting for RoboCop in like the steel mill, and like Peter Weller's in the full suit, and apparently this guy this guy's telling the story, right? So he's telling it to the cameraman, and he's like, and I was there and I had these Oreos and I was eating Oreos, and Peter Weller said, Robo wants an Oreo. And he was like, what? He goes, Robo wants an Oreo. And he's like, and he wouldn't give it to him. And apparently he said Peter Weller went to the edge and like started screaming to the whole steel mill, Robo wants an Oreo. And they call him up, give Robo a fucking Oreo. And he like apparently stuffed the whole Oreos in his mouth and didn't give him one. And after the whole story, they just cut to Peter Weller and he's like, I don't know about this guy and his fucking Oreos.
That's awesome. Peter Weller also, I believe, has a PhD in art history and is a jazz trumpeter.
Oh.
What?
Yep. Cool fucking person. And is in the Best Fringe episode, White Tulip. And is just in a million cool fucking things.
Kudos for him for art history. That's a note I would give to any young artist is like art history, like very few artists will study on their own time. Like a school will make you study. Study art history. It'll expand your horizons as an artist like so much.
Those were like my favorite classes. It is really dependent on having a good teacher. Yep. But the art history classes were my favorite thing in the world until I got a guy who is the worst professor / teacher I've ever had. And I dropped out of the course midway through the semester because A, he was horrible. He clearly didn't want to be there and didn't want to teach. B, was so incredibly strict with grading that like on the first assignment that we all did, the entire class got D's, and it made it so it was impossible. Like even if you aced every other subsequent assignment, you wouldn't get above like a B or a C in the class. The worst part is that we had a person who was a scourge at my time at SCAD, who anybody who had a class with this person like knew exactly who you were talking about. But this professor would just entertain this person who would never shut up and treated every single class like it was a personal conversation they were having with the professor. And there were a lot of professors who would shut this person down hard. And this guy would just like let this person monopolize the entire class time with whatever stupid thing they wanted to talk about that wasn't even about art history. And that was my breaking point, was another student in a class that already sucked. So hey, if you're in college, don't do that. Even if you were homeschooled, please stop.
It is a shame that like colleges are full of kids in their late teens and early 20s, because if there was more 30-year-olds, that shit wouldn't fly. If I had the confidence that I do now when I was an 18-year-old, there's so much bullshit I wouldn't have to deal with.
Oh my God. Yeah, 100%. It's very, and I get it, right? It's a formative time, but yes, there should be, this is such a bad idea, but I'm going to say it anyway. Well, I guess this is what grad school is for, fucking, right? Like this was the greatest part about being in grad school is people are a bit more mature, and also everyone really wants to be there. So a lot of times with college, right, you have people who just do it because they're done with high school and it seems like the natural thing to do, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does make for a case where a lot of people are just kind of there wasting time. Mostly, and this is not 100% true in grad school, but mostly in grad school, people are very excited to be there. They want to do the thing. They like the thing. They're going to be excited to work on it and talk about it with you. And it's really joyous in your mid-20s, you know, to be in a community of people who are there for academically like one thing and are fucking stoked about it.
Yeah. Did you ever go back to like studying art history after that horrible experience, or was that the last bit of it?
That was like maybe a semester or two before I officially dropped out. I did like skipping a semester because that was the crunch period for Dream Daddy. And then after Dream Daddy came out, I just fully dropped out.
Hey, fair enough.
Moved to LA. Yeah. But Oh my God. It was horrible. To this, there are so many things that I want to say about this person in that class that I just don't want to do because I won't put it on blast in public. But after the show, I'll tell you about this person because truly legendary in terms of being cartoonishly horrible. But yeah, I definitely I haven't done many deep dives into art history since then, but I miss my the art history teacher that I had in high school when I was taking courses at the local college was just so passionate and excited about everything. And I feel like if you have a passionate professor, any subject is going to be interesting. But I love art history. And so just having a lady who is so stoked to be there was just perfect. Yeah. I loved it so much.
But art history is also great because the museums are very good about this, right? You can go through an art museum, and mostly it's an art history class. And there are endless numbers of great books on it. It's actually something you can kind of teach yourself pretty effectively just by keeping your eyes open and going to the right places and paying attention. This is when I'm on tour. I've talked about this on the show before. This is my number one priority is art museums in the different cities that we visit.
DIA, if you haven't been, highly recommend.
DIA, I love DIA. They're just amazing art museums all over the world and the country. What are the good ones by you in Austin?
Austin really just kind of has one museum, and it's all right. Again, I got spoiled off of being in Michigan because if I wasn't going to DIA, I'd go over to Chicago.
Yeah, and
I got spoiled on art museums. So the one here is nice, but it's not the DIA.
Yeah.
I haven't been to an art museum since pre-COVID at this point, which was a real bummer because, frequently talk on this show about how I chemically cannot cry. But when I go to an art museum, I will cry in front of paintings just because that is what makes it happen.
That's a good lyric for a song, by the way. I chemically cannot cry.
Yeah, thanks enough to tranquilize a horse level of antidepressants. Really love it.
I wanted to talk before we get too much further into this. I did want to talk a bit about Masters of the Universe because it is your latest project to come out. So for context, my age is 48, which means that I was He-Man age in the mid-'80s.
Oh, yes.
And He-Man was a very big part of my childhood. The cartoon, watched it every day after school. I had the figures. I had Castle Grayskull. I had it all. I had Moss Man, not one of the more popular ones, but...
Who doesn't love Moss Man? He smells like pine.
Thank you. Fucking thank you, Patrick. Yes. On the package, it said, smells like real moss. And I was like,
and in the show, he's voiced by Alan Oppenheimer.
Yes, I know. The voice cast of the show is fucking awesome.
It's amazing.
By the way. And Shatner, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
And he sounds great. He sounds so great.
He's in his 90s. The dude's got more energy than I do at a third of his age.
It's amazing. And he sounds unmistakable. The first two words out of Keldor's mouth, you're like, oh shit, there he is. But I grew up as a big He-Man fan, Master of the Universe, He-Man, She-Ra, all of it. I had all the stuff. Then my parents gave it away to my fucking cousins, which is unforgivable. And I was so excited when Revelation came out because I was like, it's good. They took a shitty cartoon and they made it awesome. And I love that first, I don't know if you call it first series, whatever, the Revelation, and then Revolution's even better. So I'm such a fan of what you guys accomplished with it. And I just want to talk about it.
Treat it like Shakespeare. That was the mode operandi that we were given.
That's awesome. I'm sure people have talked at length about this, but I was watching it and I was like, okay, I think I really like this. And then you guys made Orko actually a sympathetic character and gave him an emotional depth.
Well, so much of that is also the amazing writing by Tim Sheridan, Kevin Smith, and again, the executive producers, the Ted Biaselli, Rob David, they have such a love and knowledge of the universe. And so you mix those things together, and then you had the amazing performance by Griffin Newman, who, by the way, he's not up pitched. That's his actual voice. He's not up pitched.
I love Griffin Newman. Griffin Newman, fucking awesome. Also was Arthur on the new live action Tick.
Yes,
right?
the Tick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when he got in the booth and he just like nailed it. There's a couple people that like nailed it right out of the gate. The entire voice cast is amazing.
Fantastic.
But, like, I remember like him and Stephen Root as Cringer.
Mm-hmm.
Like stick out to me personally as just like, oh
Stephen
my
Root's
god, like that's Cringer. That's like when he has like that heartfelt speech with Tila.
Yes.
You know, it's no notes. Amazing.
Yeah. there are so many legendary people. Fucking Keith David. Oh my god.
Oh, Keith David. I can't believe we got him because I grew up on like Gargoyles.
Oh yeah.
Like, so being able to work with Keith David, I've gotten to work with so many of like my childhood dream like voice actors.
Yeah.
On the show.
Keith David is a fucking legend. He's, obviously an incredible voice actor, a very underrated part of Community Season 6. Also, like a very funny character on Community Season 6. I love Keith David, and I was so excited to see him in this too. I'm trying to remember who else is in the cast.
Oh, there's so many people. I mean, like we had Diedrich Bader, right?
Of course.
So
yep.
He's King Randor. Method Man is in Revelation.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He plays Clamp Champ.
Rollins is in it, isn't he? He is.
He plays
yes.
Triclops.
Yes. That's a get. That's cool.
Oh yeah. Like him doing his like big like speech to everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say like specifically who pulled the strings on those. Like I have some ideas, but like getting that cast was huge. And it worked with the show like Motu, because it is so like larger than life. Like you need all these like big personalities for all these different characters.
Yeah, totally. What was it like working with Kevin Smith?
Fucking amazing.
I grew up with Kevin Smith stuff. I'm a Jersey guy, I saw Clerks in high school. Like I've been there from the beginning with his stuff. So I'm very curious what that experience
I mean, like
was
all the creative heads have been fantastic to work with. Like when it comes to like not just casting but crew, and like I'm not like a religious guy, but like blessed would be a good word to say it.
Secularly blessed.
Secularly blessed. My co-director Akon, like we are so each half of a single brain at this point. Like I can't imagine working on the show with like anybody else. But also like Ted Biaselli, you're not going to find a bigger fan of Masters of the Universe than Ted Biaselli. I've read all the books. I watched the show. Like I have a library of stuff that I'm going through, and he still surprises me with the knowledge that he has. Rob David, like his knowledge of like characters and being able to write these characters, and also his knowledge of the history of Motu, because he's kind of developed a lot of it, is unparalleled. And then like Kevin Smith, he just had the right vibe for it. But like as someone who to work with, not only did he know what he was writing, like it wasn't amorphous for him. He knew what the goal was, but he's also willing to work with me and Akon on like ideas if we had to like try to solve different problems and things like that. Cause it's a very dense property. There's a lot of characters and a lot of stuff happens.
I would call it, now, I'm not saying you're saying this. When I try to read about Masters of the Universe, incoherent is the phrase I would use. There's like so much fucking stuff going on. And there's different versions, it's like any long-standing property. There's a lot of shit to sort through, and it does not all come together naturally.
And yet our show, I think, feels very cohesive.
I couldn't agree more. This is one of the things that to me is most impressive about it, is that you took a vast mythos, which doesn't really make sense, on its own. And I thought we're very successful at establishing what was happening, kind of what the rules are. Here are the different characters. I think you guys absolutely crushed it in terms of making it, just in general, but also in terms of taking something where I'll be honest, I only had vague memories of a lot of the mythology, but really took it and made it understandable and coherent in a way that I don't think it was before.
Well, it's like Motu is also, it's a property where a lot of people have had their hands in it and making the mythos, the lore of it. It's no secret that like, Filmation owns certain rights to characters of Masters of the Universe, and then Mattel owns rights to characters and stuff in the universe, and like those two don't always overlap.
Right.
And so like there's a lot of navigating that's part of making a show like Motu. The idea is that like this is supposed to be like the story that you thought you were watching. when you were watching like the old show, or when you were playing with your action figures. Like it has to be like, that's why they went for like a company like Powerhouse, because like off of Castlevania and like Seismanos and like Blood of Zeus, like we were kind of already doing these big bombastic like action shows.
Yeah.
With, like a lot of like nice character elements in it. And so like, yeah, but being able to deliver that while also like navigating the copyright rapids, as it were, and give fans like all like the little Easter eggs and things like that like they really want. Like any that's the nice thing about Motu though, is like it's so much that at any moment you can be like, oh, well, why just make a random sword when it could be a callback to this? Or
yeah. And some of those battle scenes, and there are a lot of them.
Yes.
I can't even imagine what it took to make those. Like there is so much going on screen that, and just all the time, your style for this is so detail oriented that, especially for these battles with, sometimes 30, 40 more people on screen at any given time. Mm-hmm. I can't even comprehend what it took to make that.
It'll be, it's usually it's like a dozen named characters like champions. And then you'll have then you've got like the minions for like the shadow creatures, and those will have trolls, and there's gargoyles, and there's like little goblin ones, and there's a dragon flying through. Yeah. Or it's like you have these giant mechanoids coming out of the ground, and there's a dragon fighting another mechanoid while someone's restoring heaven. And you're just like, it's like there's a lot going on. And so.
And it's interesting, too, because part of the whole thing, right, a central part of the story is this magic versus technology kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So what's interesting to me is kind of the lack of limitations where, in a sense, like anything you want to happen, you can probably find a way to make it happen, through either magic or technology. And having that much free reign, in a sense, is that's a hard fucking thing to navigate. There are rules, but there's also kind of like you can do anything you want. There's probably a way to fit it into that world.
Because you can kind of do anything, like maintaining focus is a big part of the story. Is like, is this moment servicing the greater plot, the greater story, a character? Like there's a lot of moments that me and Akon worked out that was serving multiple purposes. A really good example is in Revelation, Evelyn does this kind of magic thing, right? She makes this bird. And she says, to most everyone else, this is sorcery, but to me, it's magic. And this is a really wonderful character moment for Lynn and Orko to kind of like bond a little bit. They have that laugh.
That's a nice relationship. I like that.
It's so good. That's, again, like written by Tim Sheridan. So fantastic moment. I love how he writes Evelyn. And then, but like visually, like bringing that callback to the end of the episode when Tila is giving her speech to Evelyn, and Lynn finishes her line saying, it's magic. It's like, so like that moment now is servicing like not just Orko and Lynn, but also setting up Lynn's arc for later. Yeah. And this is a lot of things like that are doing 3 or 4 things all at the same time. And yeah, I mean, like, me and Akon are communicating this to like 6 to 8 board artists. We've got like 3 animators on staff. We've got like all these visual development people, and like we're having to manage, a team of about 20 to 40 people to make sure they all stay focused, and they all have so many things to play with, and they're all going in different directions. And it is kind of like keeping focus on the story and the plot was a huge element to make a property like Motu work.
Yeah, I bet. Another thing you guys did successfully, I could just rave about this all day, is, take like famously, and I'm not saying anything people haven't said a million times before, that original He-Man cartoon, very one-dimensional, designed to sell toys. Right. It's not, intellectually.
Did a good job at it, too.
Hey, look, you're talking to, one of their main consumers. Like, it certainly worked on me. And the way you guys took that and made, gave it some emotional depth and 3-dimensional characters, I thought was just so successful and did not feel forced. Like, there's a way of doing that where you'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? Mm-hmm. Like.
You have to be sincere about it. Like.
That's right.
That was like another thing, is like we didn't want to be like, oh, just throw this in there because the fans will like it. It's like, no, like me and Akon really did pour into like the literature of Motu, all these books about all the concepts that they had, the ones that they didn't use, the ones they did use, like the old comics, like all this stuff to make sure that like if we're doing a callback, is this justified in the universe? Is it justified with the characters to do this? Because we didn't want to be flippant or shallow with any of it. And I think that's why like a lot of it does land.
100%. So you have the writing, you have the visuals, you have the voice acting. We didn't mention Mark Hamill, who of course is, beyond a legend.
He's so good to work with too. Like,
is he really?
For someone of like his notoriety and like fame, like you would think he would be less down to earth, but you can tell that like voice acting is a passion for him, and he treats it like a craftsman, and like that's so wonderful to work with. Again, like everyone who's done a voice on the show has been fantastic to work with.
Yeah. I remember when he first started doing Joker, which was quite a beat after Star Wars. I was just like, holy shit. Like, he's not just Luke, like he's really got the goods. He was such a great Joker famously, of course. That's awesome. I'm so jealous of the fact that you guys got to work with all these incredible folks, and that, it all came together so well. While we were up in Toronto recording the NSP album a couple of weeks ago, the new Under the Covers album, I spent a good portion of that rewatching Revelation and then watching Revolution, which is when I reached out.
You can almost feel like the pacing ramping up throughout all three. Like I think part 1 is like probably the most sedate, which is funny to say.
Yes.
Because it's not sedate.
No,
but
definitely
by
not.
the standards of like part 2, when you've got like the savage moments and, you've got like everything like coming to a head at the battle, then you've got like a Revolution. The pace is so much faster in those that like when you go back to watch the first, it's like, oh, well, we're just kind of walking through the woods for like a little bit. That's nice.
Revolution is what? Is it 5 episodes?
It's 5, yeah.
5. I can't believe you packed that much into 5, like 30-minute, is that right, episodes?
No, they're about 22, 24 minutes.
20, oh my God, dude, That's insane. Like, there's so much that happens too.
Kudos to our story crew, and also like shout out to our episode director, Abby, because we were actually able to get shot count down. And shot count matters a lot when you're doing shows like this. We were able to get shot count down, but the pacing still felt much faster. And that's a not an easy thing to do. A lot of times, like more shots equals faster pacing. So be able to reduce the shot count, but still make it feel like energetic and like conversational was no easy task. And it's one that like I don't think a lot of people will like immediately notice. That's why it feels fast, but not too fast.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm just such a huge fan. Obviously, very happy to see Mantena. Love Mantena.
Yes, Mantena.
One of my favorites.
Got his eyeballs to pop out too.
I noticed that. Of course, I noticed that. So Mantena Layton, in case you don't know, had a little thing on his back where you could go up there and his eyes would pop out of his eye holes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really the Evil Horde had some of the best.
How good does Leech look?
Characters. Leech looks incredible.
I love how our Leech looks.
Yes, everyone looks awesome. I have a personal joy in Mantena's whole existence.
What is your opinion on the? Would this be spoiler alert? Like the final outfits?
Oh, I don't remember offhand, but I remember really enjoying it. Yeah, I'd have to look at them again to see specifically what you're talking about.
That sequence, by the way, that transformation sequence is called Henshin, and something that happens in a lot of anime. And we did it in Revelation, and like in Revolution, that was like me and Akon were pushing for. Like we really wanted it to happen, and I got to work with Meaty, who is one of our storyboard artists, and then Dominic, who was our lead animator, and to really make that idea come to fruition. But the whole concept was like almost like a ballroom dance. So if you want to like a little callback to like Heartboner a little bit, it's like we wanted this kind of like ballroom dance between these two where they kind of leave each other, have their own one, and then kind of like come back, like especially with the hand moment.
Right.
So happy with how that turned out.
Speaking about specific designs, there's some character designs that really stuck out to me. I forget the exact name. Skelgod, is that the name of that?
Skelgod. I had a big hand in that one on season 1.
Yeah, that first came out season 1. Look, we're gonna brief spoilers here for anyone who hasn't seen it. Basically, Skeletor gets the power of Grayskull and transforms into his version of He-Man or whatever. Would you call that accurate? What I just said?
It's Skeletor with the power.
Skeletor with the power, and he looks fucking rad with the power. Yeah,
that was a fun one. That was me and Eddie Nunez really tag teaming on that one. But yeah, you can see in the art book, you can read up on it, and like there was definitely looking at toys like Terror Claws, Skeletor for that one, and like you'll notice that he's kind of like somewhat skull shapes all over his body, which is kind of like a gray skull thing. But also
I didn't notice that. Okay.
Yeah, he's got like slight skull shapes kind of everywhere, and it's like they have kind of a long, elongated fangs on them, so it's like a lot of gray skull, but also kind of Skeletor vibe is like, I'm just going to put my face on everything because it's all about me.
I like also that you guys conclusively answered the question, do Skeletor and Evil Lyn fuck? The answer is yes. And
that was the writers.
It's integral to the story that they do. So it's nice to get some confirmation of that, long suspected.
That moment of Evil Lyn kissing Skeletor's teeth. There's a lot of discussions in the office about like, what sound is that going to make? I wonder.
Yeah, it's smushy and clicky.
Yeah.
That's my favorite kind of keyboard experience. Right. Smushy and clicky.
Leighton, do you have any experience with this stuff at all?
Nope, but I'm enjoying listening to you two really connect on it. It's very sweet.
Yeah, it was such a big part of my childhood. And, it's got a famously bad live action movie with a famously great performance by Frank Langella as Skeletor. Sometimes people will talk about that as the best performance in the worst movie. I think Frank Langella said it's one of his favorite roles ever.
There's a character from that 80s one in Revolution.
Oh, I missed that. Who is it?
Gwildor.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Yeah. Voiced by Ted Biaselli, our executive producer.
Amazing. Yeah. Anyway, is there anything else you feel like you'd like to talk about, or just a moment that people might not have noticed that you think is particularly cool?
Oh, a moment people might not have noticed. I can talk about something that has no bearing to the show.
Sure.
But while I was working on the show, and I still do it, I wrote all my notes in Tengwar. And I still do. So these are my notes right now.
Oh my God. Patrick,
and anyone who can read Tengwar can try to make sense of that.
Wait, are you fluent in Tengwar?
So Tengwar is the script. Sindarin and Quenya is the language. So yes,
I'm sorry, everybody. I should have known that. I definitely people were screaming at me, but yes, I appreciate the correction. So can you write fluently in Tengwar script?
Absolutely. I could, you could give me a word right now and I'll write it.
Okay, Leighton.
All right. You want to do phonetically or orthographically?
Let's say phonetically.
All right.
How about squelching?
Squelching. Oh, that's a hard one. All right. So that would be S, Q, and then W, and then L, and then Ch, and then you probably want to do a G with a nasal. So that'd be squel.
This is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
There you go.
Yeah, this is amazing.
There it is. Oh my God.
That's beautiful.
Wow. That's a hidden Tolkien, talent. That's amazing. Cool.
All right. So I was going to say a little tidbit about Revelation that I just thought about is Fisto. So Fisto says words like, I'd like to fist him. And everyone's like, what the hell is he saying that for?
Yeah.
That is a callback to like an old comic because he wouldn't say punch, he'd say fist. So there's this, you can find it online. There's like a meme and it's like He-Man's like holding Fisto and he's like in his arms. He's like, I fisted them hard, He-Man, but I couldn't fist them all. Rest now, brave warrior. But like, that's where that comes from.
That is interesting because it does, if you don't know that, and I didn't know that, it does stand out as like a kind of an odd moment in the show. Is like tonally, it feels like, what is going on with this one? It just feels like a one-off joke.
I mean, if anyone's going to fist Skelegod, it would probably be someone with a giant metal fist.
I agree with you. I strongly agree with that assessment. If someone's going to get fisted, likely the fister would be the guy with the fist.
Yeah.
Totally true.
Wise words.
Wise words from a wise man. All right. So we're moving on now to our segments. Our show has two segments. Our first segment is our pop culture recommendation segment. This is where you get to talk about something you've been enjoying recently, a book, a movie, a video game, whatever it is. The name of the segment is What's Poppin'? And unfortunately, I don't have the ability to play the theme or any theme on my computer here through Zencastr. So we insert the theme in post, and the theme song goes here.
What's poppin'?
What's poppin'? Now, Patrick, I will ask you my favorite question to ask people. So you didn't hear the theme just then, but if you were to have heard it, what would you have thought of it? Now, bearing in mind, I'll give you some information, which is possibly relevant.
Okay.
I wrote it by myself. That's all you need to know.
Oh. Well, I sure did think that it was indicative of your talents as an artist. And I thought that
a brutal takedown.
Scathing indictment.
Well, why would it be? I mean, like, it was very thematic and on brand. And
great.
When I hear it, I think, boy, Brian Wecht.
That's right. I have a voice. I love it. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you / I'm angry.
I decided to lean to the most political, like politician answer I could give.
I think that's great. There are no right answers, only answers that make me upset. So, Layden, what's poppin'?
What's poppin' for me is I'm going to do an anti-pop because I don't actually have anything new to pop because, as stated many times on this show, I am incredibly boring and I will fall into a rut of just consuming the same content over and over just because that's how my brain needs to be sometimes. So what's popping for me is you don't need to have content running every second of the day. You can sit and stare at a wall or stare out a window and think thoughts. This is like not even me doing this from a high horse perspective. This is basically me telling myself that I need to do that. So I don't know, folks at home, if you haven't today just like sat with no stimulus whatsoever, maybe do that for a little bit. I think it's good for you.
If those thoughts are coming in, explore them. Don't ignore them.
I like that. That's right.
I like that a lot too. So yeah, Patrick, what's poppin'?
A couple things. We've talked a lot about my show, but a show that I would like to plug that I've really enjoyed, it's called Scavenger's Reign.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good. I finished watching that. I've started watching Delicious in Dungeon. I've been having a good time with that. That's a really fun.
I've been curious about that, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really fun anime. And then speaking of language stuff, I've been reading Tolkien's The Secret Vice. Which is all about language creation, and his he did kind of like a speech, I believe, at Oxford, all about like what he called the secret vice, which was constructing languages.
That's awesome.
It's a fascinating read because he grew up in the time when that was actually really popular. Esperanto was becoming really popular. You had a lot of other ones that aren't as remembered as Esperanto. You also had people like Gertrude Stein who were kind of deconstructing language.
What's the logic? It's like loglang. What is that one? It's like the logical conlang.
Oh yes, yeah. So like that's like Esperanto, right? Where it's like purely utilitarian. Yeah, I think you're correct, and it's interesting because Tolkien, growing up in that time, he kind of didn't agree with either side. Like he did pay some respect to Esperanto, but a lot of the other ones, he felt that like because his whole thing was like if you're going to study literature and linguistics, you should also study like philology, which is like the history and like the historical context of these languages and this literature. And his thing was like not to deconstruct it abstractly and not to necessarily just do it purely utilitarian, but to use it as an art form. And so, for instance, like writing in Tengwar as a script is gorgeous and efficient. You can write it phonetically, orthographically, and if you do it phonetically, there's certain things that you can parse out just by looking at the script without actually knowing what the character is, because it follows certain rules. And he does it all with just stems and bows. And it looks beautiful. So it's a fascinating read, all about like sound symbolism and like personal languages, like noises we just make as we're kind of like growing as people, and when we stop, because like language becomes this kind of communal thing. Because communication, that's its primary source. And he has a whole thing about like why do more people know ancient Greek than they do Esperanto, and it's like, and it was whole thing was because they want to know the classics, they want to know the epics that they're reading. And so fascinating stuff. I highly recommend The Secret Vice if you get a chance. It is a bit dry. The first like 2/3 of the book.
What a shock.
Well, it's like, I mean, it's Tolkien talking like about his studies basically.
Yeah.
But the first like 2/3 of the book is just giving context to his then speech that he gives, which is recorded in the last third.
That's awesome. Do you know the connection between, speaking of Shatner and Esperanto?
I don't. There's a connection there?
Shatner was in an Esperanto language film.
Oh.
I believe it's called Incubus, and I think it's from the 60s. I should fact check myself on this. But yeah, there was kind of a revival of interest in Esperanto in the 60s, and Shatner was in an Esperanto.
It is
film.
Incubus 1966.
Yep.
Filmed entirely in the construction language of Esperanto. All right, maybe I'll give that a watch.
Yeah. There's an amazing book, which I really loved. I can't remember the title exactly, but I think it's something like In the Land of Invented Languages by Erica Ockrent.
Oh, I think I know that one.
Where she goes through many, many, many conlangs from, like the last millennium, basically. So
it was huge. Everyone was doing it.
Yes. Yeah. And they, everyone has their basically thing where like, this is the right way to do it. I'm going to do it logically. And of course, there's no such thing. But it is very interesting.
Yeah. Or they would be more like codes than languages.
Yes.
Like that's a thing whenever you get into like if you're just replacing words, but you're not playing with syntax or like where determiners go or any of that kind of stuff, then like it's not.
Yeah. Or it's not just cryptography. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, Brian, what's popping?
Uh-huh. What's popping for me is a movie I watched on the plane back from Toronto. It's a current Netflix film called The Greatest Night in Pop, which is, I believe, co-produced by Lionel Richie, all about the making of We Are the World, the mega superstar collaboration from the mid-'80s, which had basically everybody in it. And I am of an age where We Are the World was a big fucking deal about the same time I was into He-Man. Who's in this? Everybody. Cyndi Lauper, Bruce Springsteen, fucking Bob Dylan, James Ingram, Lionel Richie.
Jackson, right?
Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Stevie Wonder is in it.
Was David Bowie in it?
David Bowie was not in it.
Okay.
Ray Charles was in it.
Paul
Simon. If you watch the video, Dan Aykroyd's in the video. Why? Who the fuck knows?
Why the hell is Dan Aykroyd in there?
Yeah. All of these 80s luminaries come, and it was written by Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson, I believe, and maybe Steve Wonder had a little bit to do with it as well. But it's just such a fun period piece about the making of this thing. Quincy Jones is like producing it, and it's all these like pop stars at the height of their popularity and productivity. It's just a cool documentary about some of the people I grew up with. It's a fast watch. There's a lot of like current interviews with people who were there at the time, including like a guy who was a cameraman in the room at, recording it. Like, and it's a crazy story because everyone's there for some awards show in LA, and they have to keep the location of this thing secret so the press doesn't show up because everybody famous is there. And, it's like this whole thing. And like Lionel Richie is simultaneously hosting the awards show. I think it's the American Music Awards, but I could be wrong. Hosting the awards show, also won basically every award at the show, and trying to organize this recording session for everybody to show up. So he has the story about it. Like he's on stage hosting. Okay, he wins an award. He runs backstage during a commercial, gets on the phone. All right, we got to do this, this, and this. Back on stage, host the next bit, win the next award. It's fucking cool. And I just really like this movie, and it's a fun watch, and it's very much a piece of 80s pop history.
Well, hell yeah.
Amazing.
Yes. Also, well,
look at all those.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, please, Leighton. I value your voice.
No.
I refuse.
Yeah. I'll just share one story too, which I really liked from it. Not everybody, but most people in the room get a solo for a particular line they get to sing. So it's Cyndi Lauper has an amazing line in it where she really comes in hot. And so she's recording her solo, and they're like, okay, everybody stop. We're getting some noise in the channel. We got to figure this out. Can't figure it out. Start singing again. Okay, everyone stop. We're getting noise in the channel. It's total mystery. Eventually, they realize she's wearing so much jewelry that her like earrings, and she's wearing like 10 necklaces and all these crazy bracelets that she's coming in like this, and it's all clanking in the channel. So she has to like take off she's these crazy giant earrings that she has to take off and stuff. It's
immediately made me think of the Metalocalypse episode where Nathan tries to wear a full suit of armor in the recording booth.
Yes. Watch it, by the way. That no one in the history of anything has ever looked less comfortable than Bob Dylan at the We Are the World recording. Look at any picture of him. Why is he there? No one knows. Here's another good story too, because this is not his like style of music. The way he learned to sing his line is because Stevie Wonder did a Bob Dylan impression to Bob Dylan. And was like, here's how I would sing it if I were you. And then Dylan got it and sang it like that.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
Amazing.
Yep.
Well, that's what was popping. And now it's time for our final segment, which is 3 parts gratitude exercise, 1 part petty grousing. The name of the segment is Peaches and Lemons, and the theme song goes right here.
Peaches and Lemons. Peaches and Lemons.
Incredible. A theme song.
Oh, I loved it.
We will now each start.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know why I said thank you, but thank you.
Well, you wrote that one, right? I could tell.
Yes, single-handedly. That's a Leighton Gray original. Yeah. We'll each start with a lemon, which is a minor bummer, grievance, annoyance, what have you. I will go first. My lemon is getting angry at yourself like days or weeks ago because there's a thing that you need and you know you have it. Where did you put it? Why did you not put it in the place that you would anticipate that you put it, and now you can't find it? What was going on in my mind when I put this particular thing? I don't know where it is. I need it. Where the fuck is it? And I know I'm going to find it and be like, why did I think this was a good spot? Anyway, that's my lemon, because that just happens to me all the time.
I know how that goes.
I need a thing. Where is it?
The hard thing is for me with glasses, because like when I place glasses down, I can't see because I'm nearsighted. So I can see you guys fine, but like, yeah, if I misplace them, and I always misplace them.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, very, very relatable.
Yeah. If I had to choose a lemon, and I think anybody living in Austin would agree with me, the allergies here are the worst.
Oh.
It's allergy capital of the United States. And
is it really Texas or Austin specifically?
It's because the Gulf, like a lot of stuff comes over from across the ocean and wafts in here. And then, and like cedar, elm, and mold have been really high. And so I've just been medicated 24/7.
Oh.
God, allergies are the worst.
They really are.
It makes it hard to work. Like when you're trying to look at screens and you just have that pang in the back of your eyes that won't leave.
Yeah. The best. Eyes burning, must stare at stimulus that makes eyes burn harder. Brian, lemon?
Yes. My lemon is I was on this recording trip. So fucking productive. Oh my God. Got my inbox down to 3 emails. Count them. 3 emails. That's because I file them. I had a couple emails that were sitting there for the better part of a year, which I hadn't responded to. Not pressing things, just like friends I wanted to respond to. And then you do that thing where you're like, I want to sit down and think about it, but you're never in the right headspace to do it. Finally, I was like, I cannot keep this person hanging on for much longer. By the way, I invented a strategy. Hey, it's January. I was cleaning out my inbox. I realized I hadn't responded to this, pretending that it hadn't hung over my head every single day for the last 12 months. Because there's a point like, okay, you get an email, you can respond right away. You wait a little bit, it's like, okay, it's maybe a week. When you get to that like 2-month mark and you haven't responded, if you then respond to it, it feels like kind of a fuck you. And then you really got to game it out. Because even though, by the way, just being completely honest and being like, hey, so sorry, I've been meaning to respond to this would be totally fine. And in fact, is what a normal human being should and would do. That's the question, I think, is like, is it better that you say, oh, I forgot about it, or I missed it somehow? Or what if you're super honest and you're like, no, actually, this is hung over my head every single day and they just couldn't get the right headspace because it cared so much. That's right.
I've obsessed myself into paralysis.
I think there's costs and benefits 100%. To both of those.
Yeah, there really are. And by the way, like, I didn't forget. I don't forget to respond to emails. I just don't do it sometimes. And then they just sit there. There's a lovely feeling of sweet oblivion when an email has been in your inbox for so long that you're like, you know what? I'm filing this now because I can no longer respond to it and keep up the illusion that I'm a decent person. So sometimes And it's never like important stuff. It's always just like, and by the way, most of the time these hang over your head. They get bigger and bigger and bigger. They turn into this giant snowball fucking thing. And you're like, oh my God, they were expecting me to reply. And then you look at the email and there was never any expectation that you were going to reply to it. It was just a thing that you put on yourself because you're like, oh, I better write this person back. So many times I let it molder in the inbox for 6 months. I look at it and I'm like beating myself up that I haven't replied to it. And it was just like a thing I didn't even need to reply to. That shit's getting filed.
How many emails do you have open at any given time?
Oh, what do you mean open?
Like I have like 3 or 4 different email addresses that people email me at.
Oh, Patrick, that's adorable. I have like 20. And I'm not kidding. I have about 20 different emails.
Oh my God. No, I wouldn't do that.
What's wrong with you?
Well, I have a lot of different projects and some of them are for joke purposes. So I can harass very specific friends from a very specific
like subsidiary emails.
Account. Yeah, keep it. This is why I have a password manager, so I can, keep all those passwords straight. My password manager is a very nice guy. He does it all for a really reasonable price. But I just text him every time I need a password. I have so many fucking emails, and they all are back. Like the recovery accounts is this unholy web of which are recovery accounts for what it. It's terrible. 3 or 4 emails. I fucking wish I had 3 or 4 email addresses. My life would be a lot better.
I agree.
So my lemon is, that's not even my lemon. My lemon is I was so productive on this trip, cleaning out the inbox. And then I get back home and now they're fucking stacking up again. I'm not, why? I don't know why. Well, how am I less productive here than I was on this recording trip? It is a psychological mystery that I will crack hopefully before I die. But
sorry, I couldn't reply to your email. I'm dead.
Yeah.
Proud of you for trying.
Thank you.
Now we will each do 3 peaches, which are cool, good, fun things. And I will go first because I'm always brief. My first one, I have a new gig. Yay. Can't say anything about it and probably can never say anything about it, which is just how I like a gig to be, but very, very excited about it.
Give us a scoop. Just a little hint.
No.
Something vague. What's the vaguest thing you can say about it?
I'm contractually obligated to not say anything about it.
How about this? Say one word in the English language that's unrelated to your gig, and then we can try to figure it out, the rest of us.
I'm going to go into my next peach.
I thought that was a reasonable request.
To you.
There's history behind that statement. The knowing look of like, if I give him a drop.
Oh. Yeah.
Don't give him any form of liquid ever.
No. It's going to come out everywhere. Sorry.
My second peach.
Yeah, sorry, Layden, you were talking.
My second peach is blush. Makeup blush. It's cool and good. I like using it. I used to never use it. I guess it's kind of hot right now. It's coming back around as a trend.
Was it out for a while? People weren't using blush for...
Definitely not as heavily. I think now it's kind of coming back around to a very, you look like a drawing of a person who is cold with the little pink nose and everything.
The old hypothermia look.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my third peach is just, it's nice when you eat fruits or vegetables. I had some celery the other day. I hadn't had celery in a really long time. Mm-hmm. Celery is fun because, you burn more calories eating it than it gives you. But God, it's so refreshing. It's just so crunchy and
There's
nice.
a workaround for that, which is if you let the celery just sit in your mouth and dissolve over a long period of time, you can actually get enough calories from it. It's unpleasant, but it does work.
All right, great. Well, those are my 3 peaches.
Cool.
Either of you.
Patrick, do you want to
Sure.
3 peaches?
I'm very happy that, like the craft of art, the craft of cooking, I have easy access to food preparation tools and knowledge on how to do things. I quite enjoy cooking, and I'm so happy that there's so many YouTube channels and personalities and people that I can get ideas from and get different crafting knowledge from. Number 2, I suppose, would be Very thankful for everybody that I've had the privilege of working with. You know, we kind of started this segment talking about nights, and we moved on to Motu, and like, I really am so lucky that I don't have. So many people have stories about office drama and horrendous people that they've worked with, and like giant egos, and like I just don't have that. Like, I'm very lucky for Akon. I'm lucky for everybody at Powerhouse. I'm lucky for the people that we bring on to nights. And so, you know, knock on wood, that continues. But so far, it seems like that's the case. I really haven't had any major issues with anybody I've worked with.
I love that. Incredible.
Hell yes.
3, I would say the rig that I'm on. I like this thing quite a bit. Put this giant NASA computer together, and with all the stuff that I do, this is recent. It allows me to work without lag. Like, I can have Photoshop, After Effects. I can run 20 to bunch of tabs on Chrome. I can be streaming. I can do all this stuff, and not a hint of lag. Everything just works.
That's like amazing.
It's really nice.
It makes such a nice difference when you finally upgrade from like a kind of shitty thing and you realize just how terrible your last one was, where like you've been limiting yourself by not, like, even creatively, of like, I can't have these two things going at the same time, or I can't have like this many layers without this thing shitting its pants. It's very freeing. So I'm happy you have that.
I do wish I had a third monitor though. I only have 2, and Akon's got 3, and I've seen what 3 can do, and I'm like, oh my God, I could just have all my chats in one monitor.
So tempted by like vertical monitor setups.
What he has.
Like, those are very cool to me. All right, Brian.
Peach number 1. We have finished the next Go Banana Go album. This is my kid band with producer, and in this case, partner Jim Roach. And it is I love this album. It's our weirdest album yet. And, you gotta be weird. You gotta be weird. It's just what came out. And we realized after our first album, we're a kid comedy band. And I love this album so much. So that'll come out in a few months, but it's done. We did run a potential title by our publicist, and she was like, no, don't do that. So I think I can actually tell you what the rejected title is, which I thought was great.
Diaper Rush.
That's very good, actually, and my favorite game. Rejected title was Hut Dug, HUTDUG, which I thought was funny.
That's just fun to say, though. Kids are going to love saying that.
That's
Hut Dug. So that is not the title of the upcoming Go Banana Go album. It's something else.
Wow. That's like the Mike Mitchell special from Doughboys. He always says Hot Dog.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's sort of a regional thing to a degree of how people say hot dog.
I did not realize that. I just thought it was a fun collection of vowels. Peach number 2, I had dinner with 2 wonderful people who are in town last night. These are Danny Avidan's parents, who are in LA and are surrogate parents to me and surrogate grandparents to Audrey. So me, Rachel, and Audrey had dinner with Dan's parents, and I just love them so much. They are truly the sweetest, most wonderful people in the world. And I text Dan's mom Audrey photos regularly because she is the closest thing that Audrey has to a grandmother on my side of the family. Mm-hmm. Rachel's mom is still with us, but my parents died many years ago, which I've apologized for many times. But yeah, having basically a surrogate grandma in Danny's mom is great. And she is I cannot overstate how wonderful these people are.
So sweet and so beautiful too. Like,
oh my God, Danny's mom is gorgeous, and yeah, she's just like, I can't say enough good things about them. And they, people have heard Danny talk about them on Grumps, especially Avi. Everything you have heard is true. They're the best. And then my final peach is Audrey finished her inaugural soccer season. Her team was undefeated. She's 9.
Oh my God, she's almost double digits.
She'll be 10 in May.
When the hell did that happen?
Insane. I know, it's crazy. But Like, yeah, their team was undefeated in soccer this year, and Audrey did so great. It was really fun to watch her play. I went to their last game yesterday, and this kid is fucking going for it. She's really working hard in that.
She always kind of struck me like the brief moments that like she was in Game Grumps, or like you would have her while you were doing like a video conference or something.
Yeah,
that, like she had a lot of energy. So I assume like something like soccer, like a sport, is probably helping with that, hopefully a little bit.
Yes, she has a lot of energy, and most of that comes out verbally, shall we say. She is a talker. And
she's got a good teacher. You've got quite the vocabulary yourself.
Well, thank you very much. We also, I guess this is just a little, I'm going to tack on the peach because it's another Audrey thing. She's now old enough that we can show her our favorite movies. So we showed her this weekend Hellboy.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah. And she loved it. And I'm very excited to show her Hellboy 2. This is, of course, the
Golden
first
Army.
Hellboy. Oh, I love Golden Army. I think, I think
del
she's
Toro.
really gonna enjoy it. Oh, it's the best. So we now can actually show her movies that, are a little more adult. But yeah, she was
great.
Very excited about Hellboy and, all the fun stuff in that. Although we did have to have a little talk about Cthulhu. But that's fine. But, at some point you got to talk to your kids, parents, talk to your kids about Cthulhu before they find out about Cthulhu and the old ones and the elder gods from other kids at school. Like have that conversation. I know it's not easy, but it's important that they hear it from you.
The calamari conversation. You got to have
that's
it.
Right. That's right. Patrick,
yes.
Thank you so much for being here. Obviously I'm just a huge fan of you and what you do in general, but the new show is so above and beyond. I was just completely blown away by it.
There's a lot of NSP fans at Powerhouse, so I'm sure they're going to love to hear that.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. You have been such an important part of my artistic life, that I can't imagine we would be where we are without you and the people you work with. So thank you for being here today and just for being a part of so many of the favorite things that I've been able to do over the last, however many years.
Feelings mutual. Like the projects that we've worked on with NSP and TWRP have been some of the funnest, like most creatively fulfilling projects like I've had in my career.
Awesome.
And that's saying something. Anytime, we're thrilled to work with you guys.
Absolutely, same. Hopefully we'll do it again sooner rather than later. We didn't even talk about Mystic Crystal, which was another like crazy huge project that you guys totally we
Oh yeah, that was the like Dragon's Lair mixed with like Road to El Dorado vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Got some really great talents. We did like that. We didn't do a shadow pass. We did like a scratch up pass to add all these like cross hatching to characters. That was a really fun one. Michael did some beautiful backgrounds on that too.
Oh my God, there's some incredible everything about it is amazing. That is far and away the best like thing Ninja Sex Party has ever made. The song, the video, all of it, and you guys were so instrumental in making that as cool as it was. But yeah, dude, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Patrick, is there anywhere that you want to direct listeners to if they want to check out your stuff, socials, plug in anything, etc.?
Sure. Yeah. My company is called Knights of the Light Table. Knights like the ones that hold swords and shields. Light table, as in like those big light up discs that animators would use. So Knights of the Light Table. You can check us out through the Ninja Sex Party YouTube channel. You can see Starbomb on the Starbomb channel, or which I think is Ego Raptors.
Ego Raptor. It's on Ego Raptors.
Ego Raptors channel. You can check out our website, knightsofthelighttable.com. And once you're done with that, you can check out my Powerhouse work on Netflix. I co-directed with my buddy Akon Masters of the Universe Revelation and the latest Masters of the Universe Revolution. And I've also been an animator on projects such as Castlevania on Netflix, Seis Manos. Amazing show. Highly recommend checking out Seis Manos. Not enough people know about that show. It's fucking Mexican grindhouse kung fu thriller. Like, it's so good.
Rad.
And I think that rounds out everything. Anything I can talk about. That's everything I can talk about.
Great. I love it.
Amazing. Well, folks at home, thank you for listening to this one. And remember, talk to your kids about Cthulhu.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Leighton Night is produced by Brian Wecht, Leighton Gray, and Jarek Centeno. Follow us on Twitter at Leighton Night, on Instagram at Leighton_Night, or email us at leightonnight@gmail.com.